Hi everybody, this is XB and I'm going to be doing a shoutcast on a 1v1 match that I played versus Vortex Z on Minx Pocket, and this is the popular game Company of Heroes 2. Let me switch to my viewpoint, and this is how I saw the game for the most part, and I am Russian playing as the blue units. My opponents, who are the red units, are German. So I'll just let the game play out, and I will kind of point out any interesting engagements or situations that arose as I played. I wanted to get out early and start capping, because capping points means getting more resources quicker. And that's the name of this game. Capturing and holding these various points in the map net you all the different resources. We have manpower, munitions, and fuel, with fuel being the most important because that enables you to train units like tanks and all the fancy vehicles. So my second unit are the conscripts, which are the basic infantry units that the Russians have. And obviously I'm making a beeline for my fuel because, as I said before, I need that fuel for any advanced maneuvers that I'm going to be doing later on in this game. And if you notice on the minimap, there's only 2 points of fuel. So, the general rule is he who holds the fuel is going to win the game. If you notice these stars on the map also, these are victory locations, and if you hold them, that is an alternative way to win the game, and that would, holding them would decrement the victory point counter, which you can kind of see at the top here. We both start off with 500 points, and holding victory points decrements that gauge to 0, and whoever gets to 0 first loses the game. So as you can see, I reached their fuel point, and the Germans, as expected, were guarding it with a very powerful machine gun unit. And you can kind of see these radial yellow lines. That shows the cone of arc of the machine gun facing. So anything that kind of walks in that zone is going to get shot at. So that's why they say the Germans are kind of overpowered, because from the start they're able to pretty much build those machine gun units. And they cover such a wide area, it's kind of hard to get around them if you're not careful. You kind of see here I'm kind of running straight into machine gun fire, which is not smart. They pin me down quickly, which renders me pretty much useless against them. They can't even move. All I can do is hit the retreat button, which sends them directly back to my base. But in the meantime, with my original engineer squad, I'm going around capping points. Just okay, I noticed those MGs, so I'm gonna try to stay away from them because they kick my butt. And I could build machine guns too, but Russian machine guns are not as nice. Their cone of fire is not nearly as wide as the Germans, and it's kind of counterintuitive with how the Russians should be played, which is very open and dynamic. I'm getting notices of the enemy decapping points that I have previously capped, and so this is the name of the game, which is tug of war, capture and hold. You're going to be seeing a lot of capturing and decapping of these points, which are very crucial for both of us. As you can see, these machine guns are only facing a certain direction, so what the Russians like to do is go around the cones of fire to flank, and just as in any good combat scenario, you want to be flanking your enemy. So as you can kind of see there, I had flanked and thrown a Molotov cocktail right on top of the machine gun squad and took care of that guy. Trying to get my fuel back, so I'm at a disadvantage right now because I lost my initial fuel cap while they had retained theirs. So he's getting more fuel than I am, and that's always bad news. I'm retreating this unit because if it hits 0, then you lost that unit and you just lost a lot of manpower. And that's something you definitely don't want to be doing in this game. I kind of scouted that this machine gun squad is capping the leftmost VP point, so this is kind of starting to look bad for me right now, because I do not want these machine guns to be locking down key avenues that kind of give me access to other parts of the map. I was lucky enough to get that Molotov cocktail off, but before that cocktail went off, he was able to, get a few rounds off in a burst and pin me. And when I'm pinned, I can't move, I can't do anything, and you can see he kind of got up and repositioned, and I'm forced to retreat. And so he holds that point. So I'm not looking too good here. My retreated units are just chilling, kind of trying to get back their manpower and regroup and re-energize their unit count. But as you can see, they are locking down my own fuel point, which is not good at all. In fact, some people would probably quit at this point if they had lost their fuel this early. So he's building a bunker, which is not good for me again. That's going to be a theme of this game, not good, because he's locking down key avenues and kind of boxing me in my own base, while he freely is able to capture all of these precious rich points that give him more resources per minute, while I lose that same capacity. Fortunately, you can't be everywhere at once, so as he's focusing on the center, I'm kind of trying to creep around the side, creep around the flanks, and just trying to keep him on his toes. And the best thing I can try to be doing at this point is cutting off his supply chain. These points all need to be linked together to be netting the bonuses, so if I can somehow get these two or these 3 points, I can cut off his supply. But as you can see, it's kind of tough because he is locking down my west, and my east is kind of open, so that's where I am trying to focus my ebb and flow of my units, because my middle and my west are completely locked down. I'm in bad shape right now because I do not have much fuel, and I need to be somehow building my second tier to get mechanized units out, which would be no problem, versus these machine guns, because machine gun fire does not penetrate armor that well, but they're terrific versus flesh, obviously. So since my opponent had captured all 3 stars for quite a period of time, my ticker ticked down to almost 300, while he still retains his full 500. And again, like I said before, if I decrement to 0, the game's over. So my back is against the wall here. He's got my fuel, and he's tickering down my victory points. Somehow I had killed that pesky machine gun squad and stole his machine gun, and I kind of missed that action there. But in the meantime, I am just trying to get out of my own base. He has set up a mortar car, a mortar half-track, and he's just camped right outside my base, just shelling me. Fortunately, I have my own mortar squad, and I am trying to counter mortar him and just trying to somehow break my way back through the middle. So let's see what happens as I try to come straight up the middle. Lo and behold, he has reinforced the middle with not 1 but 3 bunkers. One being a medical bunker, which he can reinforce from or get healed from. The other one is a command bunker where he can reinforce from or replace his dead members. And the last bunker is a machine gun nest, which just further locks down that area. For some reason, he let me get around the flanks. So as you can kind of see in the west here and the east, I have fortunately been able to sneak by his kind of gauntlet, and hopefully I can get around and get to these key 3 points where I can cut off his supply and kind of choke him from the rear here. He seems to be investing a lot of resources reinforcing this point, as he wouldn't need to go all the way back to his base to reinforce, replace his units. He can kind of just waltz back really close to my front lines and just play from the middle. So he's content, he's sitting pretty, he must feel really confident at this point. But the name of this game also means do not become complacent. You must always adjust dynamically to the situation, figure out what's going on, and react. And right now he should notice that he does not own the flanks, and for whatever reason he is not doing a great job at gaining back his ground. And I think because he's maybe overconfident at this point. He's thinking, wow, this guy, I've got him on the ropes, I've got him down to almost half of his victory points, I'm shelling his main base with my mortars, I'm just going to kick back. But as you can see, I'm kind of sneaking around the back here while he's just focusing all his efforts on trying to annihilate me with his 2 mortar trucks. My goodness, look at this. And finally, what happens? I reach his precious fuel point in the back. And another choke point here. Decapped. And if I can decap this one point, I must be busy, because I do not notice that this squad here is sitting right outside this red circle. And if I can just get one guy in there, then the counter will be able to decap there. I'm continuing to try and distract him with my own mortar, who's sitting back at my own base, just lobbing shells, just trying to distract anything. And finally, here we go, I get my units to start decapping his fuel, and my opponent finally recognizes that, hey, what's going on here? This isn't good. I'm surrounded. And with this decap, he is now completely cut off from his supply. He is no longer receiving any benefits from this fuel point, and obviously I just decapped his remaining fuel point. So I have the advantage in manpower, so I will be using that to increase my infantry units to try and secure this chokehold. I think at this point my opponent must be panicking and trying to build armor as quickly as he can. He should have built armor sooner, but unfortunately he spent a lot of resources reinforcing this middle point here. Looks like I'm starting to try and do my own kind of containment. And you can kind of see the Soviet machine gun coh2 is a lot less pronounced, more of a acute angle versus the German counterpart. But fortunately they kind of set up a little bit faster. So I'm just kind of going toe-to-toe here with these kind of mobile MG guys, and they're trying to crawl out of that cone of fire, and they're doing a pretty good job of that. But I'm kind of still hitting at least one guy. And unfortunately I crept up somebody on to flank, which is always a good thing. You want to be flanking at all times and cause these guys to retreat. So again, I have a good foothold, a good stranglehold on this guy, and I'm denying him this fuel point. he still holds this middle ground, and he's just right outside my base here. But fortunately, um, he underestimated the situation, and he is starved for resources at this point. So all he can do is kind of try and hold this point as much as he can, and somehow try to creep back and get back his fuel point, and to link back up his supply chain. At this point, I am already building my battalion command, which is going to enable me to build some pretty nice tanks. So all of this action got me a little bit of fuel, just enough fuel to get my buildings built, and I'm slowly creeping up behind him with this MG. His mortar is recognizing that fact and is trying to shell me back. But fortunately, I am pressing finally into my fuel area that he had tried to secure and harden with all these bunkers. Thank goodness these mortar cars are pretty weak. You can damage them significantly with machine gun fire. And as you can see here, I am just doing whatever I can. And in that case, I threw an anti-tank grenade, and that was pretty much it for that guy. So, from the start of the match, you can kind of see what happened. He went for the middle, won it in spectacular fashion, cut off my main avenues on the west flank, but at some point he decided to rest on his laurels and reinforce this middle point here, and I think that was his downfall. And here's my first beefy tank, which is the T-34 Russian tank. And this guy's going to clean up any mess that I might have left behind. In this case, one of the bunkers. And his futile attempts to recap are kind of a little too late. Wow, look what we have here. We have a Brumbar, which is an interesting tank because it is anti-infantry versus anti-armor. So he was thinking, wow, you know what? There's a lot of these conscripts and a lot of these footmen out on the field. I'm going to try and at least wipe them off the field unmolested. But little does he know, my T-34 is coming to get you. Coming to get you. So you can kind of see the limitations of tanks. Some tanks can have fully 360 revolving turrets while others are fixed. So his Brumbar is kind of screwed. You can kind of see how he deploys smoke to try and get away from my tank, but to no real effect. I am chasing his butt down at this point. I whack it once in the butt, and he's forced to abandon. So I could actually pick this tank up if I could somehow get my infantry there and repair it in time. But at this point, I just want to make sure he does not get any sort of foothold back into the game by capping points and getting more resources that he definitely needs. He is trying to damage my tanks as much as possible. These guys on foot can't really do much, but they do have personal like Panzer Shreks that they can fire once at a cost of ammo. I have a smaller tank out, the T-70 light tank, which is nice because they're really fast, and if you kill enough people and gain them veterancy, they can actually start capping points, which is obviously very nice. But their main gun becomes disabled while they cap. But at this point, I just want to make sure that his avenues are kind of blocked off, just like he did with his MGs at first. I'm doing it with my light tanks. So even though my main tank is damaged, you can kind of see it's got engine damage. I am just parking it right next to the empty lumbar and making sure he does not pick that back up. I have other units covering all the major points, MG inside this building, covering this victory point, and as you can see, his victory points are slowly ticking down, finally making it even. I have garrisoned this building with my machine gun, and you can kind of see any unit that tries to enter these walls gets immediately fired on. So the way he would want to counter that is either by armor or via artillery, which would bomb things like this. But he has nothing because he's pretty low on manpower at this point. So I'm able to just easily wipe up any stragglers that he might have around. Looks like I'm entering his base. Finally, just squished his guy right there. And right now he's hurt, but he did get a nice shot off. He somehow gave me heavy engine damage. And he had stolen his Brumbar, but to no avail. Yeah, I'm in his base right now. He would pretty much have to build an anti-tank unit at this point and try and rally it to somehow kill my tank, but I think he does not have the resources for that. And I have continued to dominate the map, fortunately, and I think all his attention is focused back on his base. He's still getting some shots off with his Panzer Shrek, but it's not penetrating my armor too well, and I still have pretty good health. And as you can see, I'm earning veterancy for this tank. The first rank of veterancy unlocks the secure mode, which in my case enables me to either cap while disabling my main weapon, or I can repair myself thanks to also my what are these called? My command point abilities that I picked. So I think at pretty much this point it's GG. He knows it, and he will indicate that by gracefully quitting. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. This is just a good lesson in never underestimating your opponent, even when you've got him against the ropes. You think victory's in sight, to not rest on your laurels and always try to stick to the fundamentals. You want to cut off avenues of approach and keep them cut off, and not let your opponent come around and flank, even though you have a nice secure foothold right in the middle. So thank you for watching this replay. Hope you enjoyed this interesting 1v1 match in Company of Heroes 2, and I will see you guys in the future, hopefully. Thank you. Bye-bye.